Team 5. Tonight. Start the first 100 metres. Paul King.
They put up with terrific privations in lots of ways, but they seemed to be happy. I think they were interested in trying to achieve something, and that was breaking the land.
It was hard work. It was terribly hard work. It was unpleasant work because you didn't get any satisfaction from doing it because it was too much, far too much. You didn't see anything anywhere except land, 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 bush, bush, bush. It's all bush.
It was very sad for them after 20 years of all their work and toil to leave it, but the rest of the settlement was gradually moving out, and the depressed years, of course, created a problem financially, and it was sort of no alternative other than to go.
Those three voices, speaking of deprivation, hardship and sorrow, belong to three people with a common history, a memory of growing up in this place, Atuia. This settlement was the last of Taranaki's farm developments. It was steep, rugged and inaccessible. It's 80 years since those three people and dozens of others first arrived here, most travelling up the Whanganui River by steamboat, then packing their supplies by horse over the 8-kilometre track to the settlement. Later on, the first track to Whangamomena was cut, just wide enough for a pack horse and prone to slips.
Oh, the road was... we didn't talk about the road, it was too awful for anything. We used to get swamped time and time again. It was mud, soft mud, ploughable mud.
Jessie Rose, now 97, came to Atuia as a war bride. It was a huge leap from shorthand secretary in London to farming in the Wop-Wops, but after 6 months in tent, she and husband Dell built their first home.
I had a campfire to start off with. Then we had a range, a second-hand coal range. And that took me quite a time to get into the cooking lane.
Isolation was one of the biggest problems. The nearest settlement, Whangamomena, was a 22-kilometre horse ride away. If anyone became sick, it took a day to get them out.
I had to be taken out at one stage on a horse. The horse had to be led, and the baby was in my arms on the horse, walking all the time. I was really very worried. We both were.
Was it lonely living there for you, having just come out from England?
Funnily enough, I never felt very lonely out there. You know, it's extraordinary, but perhaps it's because I'm a lonely sort of person. But it never worried me. I liked going out when there was a chance, and I liked going for horse rides and riding for miles and miles. But I never felt actually lonely. I've felt far more lonely latter years.
What did you do for entertainment out there?
We played cards and we sang. Yes, we had a piano. We had my in-laws gave us a little organ, an organ about that wide. They wanted us to have some music of some sort. And they gave us this, and it gave us a great deal of pleasure. And people used to come up and listen to it, and up the hill to the house. It was really quite good. I don't know what happened to that organ.
The organ, like much of Atuia, has gone, probably taken out when the settlement was finally abandoned in 1942 after the slump, the depression and a disastrous flood. This is the only original Atuia house still standing. The Wiley place was a bit of a show home in this community because while most of the settlers used slab or pit-sawn timber for their houses, the Wileys had specially made doors, window frames and joinery brought up on the Whanganui River by steamboat, then packed in by horse. This too is an old house site, just ruins now with a few clumps of spring flowers bravely popping their heads up where the garden used to be.
Well, these are the snowdrops. His mum used to come out and throw a few seed in round with out of the packets and then hope for the best. And on some of the old photos there where we've been taken, shows these annuals when they were flowering.
Oh, it's quite an extensive garden. Yeah.
And because the house is down here where the old chimney block is, still standing.
For Frank Callahan, who left the district as a 6-year-old, the ties to Atuia are still strong, the memories clear.
That's the earth for the telephone line. Had a one-wire system coming in from Whangamomena, party line. All the settlers were connected to it.
Did it go wrong?
Oh, only if a branch or something touched it would earth it, and then it would go completely dead until somebody went out and fixed it up.
And how big was the house? Where did it sort of extend to?
You know, from the fireplace was practically in the centre, and it had 3 bedrooms and a living area as well as a area for storage.
And all made out of this slab timber?
It was, yes, all split timber. When they first felled the bush and got a clear patch, they went out and split the timber and had poles for the roof. And then it was lined with the old tent fly as things improved. And Mum used to give it a coat of newspaper, paste, flour and water paste. And every now and then when it get a bit shabby, she'd go in and put a bit more paper on, make it freshen the place up.
And what about you kids? What was your big sort of piece of reading?
Well, the catalogues, the old Farmers Trading Company had big catalogues, and we used to get a lot of thrills out of those because you'd go through and see all the things that the rest of the world had and what we didn't have and what we'd like possibly, and also probably cut little bits of the pictures out and that, how kids do.
Did you kids feel you were missing out on anything?
I don't think so, because we didn't know what the rest of the world was doing other than what we read and heard on the radios and that. We're a little race all of our own, probably.
Frank's family were late settlers in Atuia, arriving in 1916. They ran sheep, cattle and some milking cows, quite successfully at first, but, like other settlers, they were forced off the land by falling farm incomes and heavy debt burdens, coupled with the harshness of the country itself, the isolation and the poor access. "80 years later, in this car, on this road, it's hard to imagine what life was like for those early pioneers.
I can remember very vividly going down the Whangamomena road, a distance of about 11 miles, and it was very muddy along those Papa bluffs, and my horse kept to the edge of the roadway because it was firmer there, and I would pull it across towards the inside of the road because I thought it was a bit too close to the edge, and it would tend to drift back there. So I can remember that for my first trip fairly vividly.
For 91-year-old Les Marfel, a return to Atuia takes him back 8 decades, to his arrival here as a teenager to work his brother's farm. He remembers an awful lot of hard work, and he remembers the sort of settlers prepared to do that hard work.
The bush was felled, and of course the small timbers were burnt, but the logs were remaining there, and that impeded tracks. You had to cut tracks for the stock, and in the shady sides the bush did not dry decently. It could not didn't get the sun, and it would not burn, so you'd have a lot of old rubbish in these valleys. And of course that's where the Manuka had the opportunity to get a good hold, Manuka and bracken fern, whilst your pasture would be fairly decent out in your open country. There'd be these shady sides would revert back.
How did you actually sow the grass?
By hand, throwing it from these bags, which we carried in front of they had the bag across our shoulders, a bag with a hole cut in it, put our head through that and have it cut across the front about waist high, and you would sow it both hands. I think we got probably more out of life in those days, although we didn't have the entertainment. We had to make our own entertainment. This place here had their sports meeting at one time, after a few years, had their chopping, and Ned Shrewery was a world champion axeman, and the community spirit was marvellous, really, and they seemed happy enough, but financially it wasn't circumstances beyond their control. It wasn't very successfully financially. But the camaraderie was marvellous, and the optimism was really remarkable, I think.
But optimism wasn't enough. The land itself seemed to fight settlement, with constant flooding, erosion and bush regrowth. Then came the 20s slump and 30s depression, which dramatically cut farm income. Many settlers had leases which required annual improvements, but no income meant no improvements and no repayment.
I reply to your note of the 11th regarding the £26 improvements. I may say I haven't done anything in this respect. At present, I'm trying to get about 50 chain of 6-year-old remove fencing back to the perpendicular, which operation will have to be performed again in another 5 or 6 years unless I have a bit of luck and drop dead before that time.
David Murray, the author of that letter, was typical of Atuia's settlers. It's clear that sometimes their only tangible asset was their sense of humour.
There'll be no return from the farm until next Feb or Jan, and by that time there'll be 2 half-years interest and 2 half-years rent besides other expenses to add to that burden. Next season will have to be a boom one indeed. No such thing as a football match, a bitty Yankee Doodle or a jar of beer, Christ no. Those be luxuries these times. Anyhow, at present the outlook is gloomy, the future as black as the inside of a Solomon Islander. So under the circumstances, I'd be qualifying for ducks in a lunatic asylum to go on with any permanent improvements. I intended to come and see you personally on this matter. Jim Carter was going to go to New Plymouth yesterday and I was going with him. He changed his mind at the last minute, hence this hurried and disjointed note. I am, yours respectfully, David Murray.
But even pleas to their creditors for understanding couldn't halt the exodus of farmers across this bridge, out of Atuia forever. In 1942, those few that were left suffered a final blow. A tremendous flood swept down the Whangamomena River, raising the level by 60 feet and depositing logs in the archway which remain to this day. The settlement was abandoned and the land reverted to the Crown, which leased some of the clearer areas for grazing but allowed no improvements. In the late 70s, following extensive land use surveys, the government decided the property was ready for redevelopment, and in manager Pat Ford they chose a man with a personal stake in Atuia's success.
I was born in Makahi, which is about 20 kilometres from from this area, and I lived there until I was 24, and then I was shifted to Southtown actually. And it was quite a thrill really to be asked to come back in here. It was close to where I'd lived and the families that lived in the area.
One of the biggest jobs undertaken by Landcorp, previously Lands and Survey, was 34 kilometres of electric and wire fencing. Landcorp initially cut, crushed and burned some 270 hectares of scrub, but they now hope to control regrowth by stocking. And of course that means adequate fencing. Landcorp had planned to split Atuia into 12 farms for balloting, but changing government policy and economic hard times have put that notion on hold. Besides, Pat Ford still has major redevelopment work to do before Atuia looks anything like the farm those pioneer settlers dreamed of 80 years ago.
I've heard of all these names of the people that used to live out in Atuia, and it sort of had a fascination and I guess a bit of mystery about it.
Is there a feeling that because you come from this district that people are looking at you and wanting you to succeed or fail because of the history of Atuia?
It is sort of in the background, but I guess it spurs you on a little bit more and makes you think about things, how they were and how they are now, compare the different methods and yes, it is a challenge.
Are you determined to succeed here? Do you think you will succeed here?
I think we will, yes, with the modern technology we have nowadays, and it's so much easier than what it was in those days.
One can only imagine how different things would have been if those early pioneers had access to this sort of equipment. One of their greatest problems was access. At best, the Whangamomena road was an unreliable 6-foot wide track. Now, access is from the Stratford side, where Landcorp's invested $866,000 on a new road. Away from the redevelopment work, there are times when Atuia looks just as it might have 80 years ago. And never more so than when Pat Ford and his two-man team turn their backs on modern technology and rely on two of the oldest farm machines, dog and horse. At the time Landcorp took over the Atuia block, there was concern that crushing and burning of scrub on the property endangered wildlife, particularly kiwis, rumoured to be present in the area in large numbers. In deference to those concerns, some 4,500 hectares of uncut virgin bush was handed over to the Conservation Department for management. It's now part of the Whanganui National Park.
Come on, Jock. Come on. All the sheep seem to be down the valley, so Mike, if we could get you to go around this ridge, round through the scrub there, and hunt those sheep off on that side. Up through the gate, drive them around the track.
Okay.
And I'll go out to the left-hand side here and hunt that bridge off over there.
Okay.
Despite the downturn in farming, Landcorp plans to turn Atuia into a highly productive unit. Since taking over the property, they've doubled their stock numbers to 5,500 Perrindale Romney sheep and 800 Angus cattle.
Behind, Flo.
For the past 5 seasons, lambing percentages here have been almost 100% and calving almost 86%. Not bad for semi-developed, long-neglected land. It's hoped they'll farm on a break-even basis this year, and Landcorp's policy is to eventually clear Atuia of all debt. To that end, Pat Ford sees his role as more than just caretaker.
Some people might think that because I'm managing I don't take an interest in it, but I do treat it as my own farm, and all the work that I do, I try and work as if it was my own, save myself work and save people in the future work.
While Pat's bringing life back to one of the old settler roads, using it as a major stock route, his wife Elwyn is creating the sort of country garden that flourished here 8 decades ago under the green fingers of settler families. She too has strong ties to this place. Brought up in the nearby district of Toko, she's delighted to play a part in Atuia's rebirth, and she's not bothered by the farm's remoteness.
We don't feel that we're isolated. Distance-wise we probably are, but because of so many friends and visitors and people coming back into the area, the older generation who like to come back and see the area again, we just don't feel isolated because we've always got people in.
Are you happy to do that?
Yes, I am very happy. I think I learn a lot from the people coming back who are happy to tell us the history of the place, and we're enjoying learning as much as we can about it ourselves.
With each truckload of stock that leaves Atuia, an 80-year-old dream comes ever closer. For Landcorp, it's a matter of their investment paying off. For the Fords, it's more personal. They grew up with tales of a brave band of farmers eventually beaten by impossible odds. In the 80s, modern equipment, more suitable stock breeds, reliable access, and most importantly, financial support should all add up to a bright future here. Concrete bridge here is identical to the famous Bridge to Nowhere, which marks an abandoned farm settlement on the Whanganui River. But this bridge has recently been dubbed the Bridge to Somewhere, a description reflecting Landcorp's hopes and the Ford's optimism. It's a name that's specially poignant for those few remaining settlers of old Atuia, those who still visit, who still cross that bridge to come home.
Well, it's always been home, and another thing is we always say, well, it's our place, it belongs to us, and yet it doesn't really, you know, it's rather a silly statement to make. People have often said, well, do you still own it? And I say, oh, no, but it's still our place, it's our country, our land, you might say, because we were brought up in here, and that's, you know, one of those strange reactions, and it's always been home.
Angela Dordney and Tony Cyprian